I scaled my Amazon KDP account to over 4.6 million and I hired over 700 freelancers, but I ended up keeping less than 5% of them. This is the last video in the video series I'm doing with Andre. Andre did everything himself until I showed him how to hire freelancers and scale 4 times faster. Welcome, Andre.
Hi, Peter. Thanks
Great
for
to have
having
you here. In this video, we'll talk about where you can find the best freelancers and how exactly you can do that, what types of freelancers you need, and what you should keep doing yourself, why every publisher should focus heavily on working with freelancers, and why freelancers are way less expensive than most of you maybe think. Andre, what changed for you since you started working with freelancers?
And the whole structure of approaching publishing changes. So I've created, as you said, all the books by myself. And of course, that's the main time spent. If you create the books, the creation of the books is the most time-consuming task you can do. I like to do it. I still like to create manuscripts and covers and the content of the book. But it's just way more efficient to hire freelancers, train them, give them the right tasks to do, and you have way more time on doing more high leverage activities. And that's, if you want to scale, if you want to build KDP as a business, then I think you need freelancers. Of course, you could also hire real employees. Then you need an office and a fixed place. If you want to do that, that's also a possibility. But I would rather travel a little bit around the world, visit different countries, and then a normal office with employees wouldn't that practical. So freelancers is the perfect way to go to give away my work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think one main idea is you can't build $1 million business with $10 tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to scale, if you want to produce more, which is in essence what we're doing with freelancers, then you want to think about ways to leverage your time in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Now let's cover a little bit of the practical side. So where can we find the best freelancers and exactly how do we do that? So I think keeping it simple, you can have different freelancing sites and they have different experiences as a client. But I think the main thing we want to keep in mind is that we're looking for a person. And a great person might be on Upwork, they might be on Fiverr, and they might be on another site, such as, for example, 99 Designs, if you're looking for a designer. You also have a Spanish freelancing platform called Workana, where you can work with people in Latin America. And there you can find freelancers, usually for a lower cost, because the salary in Latin America isn't as high as in, for example, the US. So in terms of where to find freelancers, my favorite place is Upwork. I know you, Andre, you use Upwork as well.
Yeah.
And then for Fiverr, you maybe use for, let's say, creating video ads or something like that, more specific.
Yeah, more specific.
Yes. Exactly how you can do that, it's very simple. You create a job post, and I usually go with the premium job post so I can have more freelancers see the job post. But in essence, you start to filter, okay, I want this language, let's say, or I want from this location, or I want this specific skill. And you can invite these people to your job post and you can message them and they will apply to your job post as well. So do you have any tips for finding a freelancer now that you've hired your first couple of ones?
Yes, I think testing is the most important part when it's the topic of freelancers. Because of course, they can have many good experiences, they can have many reviews and earn much on Upwork and all that stuff. But they maybe have done tasks that are very differently to your task. And if you are searching, normally we want the best price quality balance, that we don't pay too much, but we still have a high quality because we want to scale. And in scaling, of course, the cash flow from KDP is an important part if you want to grow fast. And that's why you want to balance quality and price so you don't spend too much. And if you can't spend $60 an hour for the best of the best freelancers, then you need to test the other ones that have good results, have good reviews, but still at least test 3 or 4 different ones, give them smaller tasks to do for you, maybe pay them like $10 or $20 for this little task, just to see how are they working, how is the communication with you, and then choose one of them for a long-term partnership. Normally you are searching for the right person, and then you can work with this person for a month. So I have my freelancer who earns, I think I pay him around $1,000 a month now. So he's really doing full-time only work for me. And I found him with this strategy. I think I tested 4 freelancers, and he was the one who communicated the best, who was the fastest, and who looked at a lot of details. So he was way more precise than the other ones, and still was one of the cheapest ones of these 4 I tested. And if you test, take your time, not want to find a freelancer now, but maybe have a week of testing phase. So don't hassle, don't try to find the right person in a few hours, and then give yourself the time to test. Then I think you can find the right freelancer, and then have a person who will be with you on the journey of publishing for the next years, even years maybe. Yeah.
Yes. Let's now talk about what types of freelancers we need and what we should keep doing ourselves. So I think we have 2 categories. We have something that we cannot do to the same standard as someone else. That's one category. And then another category is what we can do to the same or better standard than most other freelancers, but it's not worth our time. So we think about those 2 categories. Obviously, one that comes to mind for me is cover design. That one goes into this category. I am not a great designer. I'm not a professional designer. So it makes sense that I pay someone for doing this task, because I will get a better job than if I were to do it myself. So that's one example. Another example could be Amazon ads. If I have an Amazon ads expert, they can run my Amazon ads better than I can. So those are 2 examples that go in this category. Now, another category could be, for example, formatting the books. I formatted hundreds of books in the beginning, but eventually I realized it's not worth my time. I can simply transfer my knowledge of formatting books to someone else who can do it for me. And now I'm at a point where other people can do it also better than what I can do it. And of course, at a lower cost than what my time is worth. So I'm reading a book now called Buy Back Your Time. And he talks about that you want to take the money that you're making per year, so the profit plus any potential salary that you might be paying yourself, and you want to divide that by 2,000. So 2,000, that's the hours in a year. And then let's say you get to an hourly rate of, let's say $100 an hour, just to keep it simple. He says that for 1/4 of that, you should never do that task yourself. So anything that is $25 an hour, you need to make sure that you outsource that to someone else, because your time is worth so much more. And I would argue probably even above that amount, you want to have someone else to do. So let's say your time is worth $20 an hour, then you can still find people who would be willing to do what you're doing for $5 an hour. Perhaps it's simple data entry work, or it's formatting, or it's going through and clicking on your Amazon ads dashboard, or something very simple. Now, another strategy that I know you, Andre, is using is you are doing the books yourself, but you realize it's not scalable. So what you do is you still have control over the production in certain stages, so the beginning and end, from my understanding, but you have gotten to a point where the 80% of the work can be done by someone else. Can you expand on that?
Yes, I created all the first books completely myself, so I know what are the exact steps. And what I've done is I create still the outline of the book, so the beginning. Then I have filmed video tutorials for the freelancer that the freelancer can just go through, and then create the most part of the content of the book. And then in the end, I look over it if everything is right, and then I can publish the book. And that's the perfect way for me, because then I can create a book in 1/5 or even less of the time, but the book has the same quality as if I have created the whole book. So I can, instead of 1 book a month, I can in theory create 5 or 6 books a month.
And you might think, oh, it's gonna take so much time to train other people to do this. It's going to be a hassle to filter through people, but it doesn't need to be that hard. So for example, let's imagine Andre, he's creating the book. All he needs to do is press the record on a screen share software. Let's say it's ScreenPal or it's Loom. And then he's doing the task. And meanwhile, while he's doing the task, he's also speaking about what he's doing. So he's reasoning, I'm clicking here because of this. Now remember, this is important because of this, etc., etc. And let's say he does that for 3 books that he creates. All of a sudden, he has 3 different videos. And the reason we want 3 different videos is because the situation might be a little bit different depending on the book. So now all of a sudden, he's got this extensive training material. And one thing that I've done is I create a standard operating procedure myself based on that. I'm sure you can use AI, but one thing I read yesterday in the book, Buy Back Your Time, was that you can simply have the person that you're hiring watch through the videos and they make the standard operating procedure. So they break down the steps. The benefit of this is that they will learn as they are watching and as they are breaking down everything. And number 2 is that you can easily see if they've understood the task correctly. So that is what I will do moving forward in terms of hiring. I will simply, okay, this week I'm working on descriptions, let's say, and I will go through and I will reason, okay, I'm using this AI tool, for example, to optimize, but I'm not relying 100% on AI. I'm still making these tweaks. And yes, it might be a little bit of upfront investment finding this freelancer, but like Andre says, we can simply test a couple of freelancers, see which one performs best. And then, yes, of course, there's a little extra work with pressing the record, but I don't think that's a big hassle. So in reality, it's not that far away. So I would consider every reason not to do it. And I would break it down. Is that really the case? Does it take a lot of time? And also, does it cost a lot of money? That's the next thing we will talk about. Because if you know that your time is worth $20 an hour, and you know that you could be hiring someone to do this task for $5 an hour, then you could argue that you're wasting $15. Because with those 20 hours, whether that is in your work or whether that is in your business, you could be producing $15 more of value simply by reallocating your time to focus on this activity instead. Do you have any thoughts on what I covered there, Andre?
Yes, if you're a self-publisher, you're self-employed, so you see the world different than a normal employee, and then your time and your money is normally it is the same in some sort, because you can always take, as Peter explained it, you can always calculate how much a minute or an hour is worth. And if you see, okay, I could earn more in a job that's a task I could do in publishing would pay me long term, then it would make more sense to work in a job, earn money, and with this money buy a freelancer who then does the job for publishing. That maybe sounds a little absurd, but I did exactly this last year, 2024, because I had created all the books myself. So I've invested my own time in creating books, and then I've had, I think, 16 books. And I now had the problem, I don't have the money to scale. I had too less money to run for all 16 books Amazon ads. So the most valuable thing I could have done with my time is working in a normal job to earn money, to invest this money into Amazon ads. And these 3 months I worked into this normal job, it doesn't felt like working in a job. It was like I was working on my business while I was working for the company. Why? Because I was earning the money for my business. It's a complete other frame of mind you're in if you think like that. Because then your employer you are for 3 weeks, 3 months I was there, is just like one customer you have. And it's just a longer project. You're just working for 3 months for this customer. It's a long project. You earn over this, over the 3 months, for example, $6,000–7,000, and then with this money you can invest more in your business, etc. And then also buy freelancers with that, or like I spend more money in Amazon ads, for example. And this thinking can always apply. And if you earn more money, as Peter said, a fourth of what your hour is worth, you can outsource completely and never do this task again. I think that's the best way to scale long term, and also don't overwork yourself. Suddenly you have way more time for other things, of course, for other business things, but also do you have more free time or for doing stuff with your children, your friends, more free time, more wellness, more well-being, I don't know, more training, what you have, all what you have in mind. If you go that step and just hire a freelancer and build a team and not rely on to work all on your own.
Yes. And I think this is why freelancers are way less expensive than you maybe think. Because if you see the discrepancy between, okay, I am doing this task, it's worth $10 an hour, but my time is worth $40 an hour. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So one thing I've always said to my mentee Ian, and if you watch the interviews, you will see that he repeats this phrase, it's work on the business, not in the business. And when you're working on the business, yes, sure, in the short term, you might lose a bit of money, but in the long term, the production, if you know that you're producing books that are profitable in the long term, then all it comes down to is having an investor mindset. And I believe we went over that in video 1 of this series, where we are thinking like investors if we're doing book publishing. If you think about real estate, it's completely different. You have maybe 7-8 years before you get a return on investment. In books, even with 1 year that the book pays you back and everything after that is profit, that's way faster. So if we're thinking like an investor and we're valuing our time correctly, then it does make sense that we start thinking like this. And maybe you say, well, I've tried hiring a few freelancers and they didn't do a great job. Well, it's a numbers game, like most things. It's the 80-20 rule. Eventually, you will find a great freelancer. I've hired over 700 freelancers. I can tell patterns that it's not about my training necessarily. It's more so about the person. Because if I find a great freelancer, even if my training is subpar, they will ask the right questions.
Yes.
So they will learn eventually. So if you notice early on that the freelancer is making a lot of repeated mistakes, simply move on. We hire fast and we fire fast. We're hiring freelancers. We're not adding employees. So we don't need to go through an extensive hiring process and talking to them 5 meetings before we finally decide to hire them. Instead, we can simply judge their work. So we hire them. Okay, show me what you can do. You talked a good talk. Now show me what you can do.
Yeah.
And when you have people show you their work, that is when you will get the truth. And that is what I think is the key in my hiring process. And it's also what I advise Andre to do now that he's building his own team and scaling. Any final thoughts as we wrap up this video, Andre?
Nothing to add. Perfect, Peter.
Okay. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't watched the 6 other videos that we did, then I highly advise you to go through them. It might be one of the most valuable videos of this channel. And if you're more in the starting phase, yes, a lot of this is going to be very comprehensive. But if you're advanced, you're going to definitely appreciate every single video, because even as I was listening to Andre, and I'm sure as Andre was listening to me, maybe he's listened to me enough now, so maybe everything was already in his head. But regardless, if I learned from Andre, then, and I'm 9 years into publishing, then I think that says a lot that these videos are worth watching, especially as an advanced and intermediate publisher. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you once again, Andre, for
Thank you
coming.
for doing this series with me.
Yeah, thank you.